In this video, I'm going to show you how to solve a basic absolute value equation. Now, absolute value equations aren't very difficult to solve, but it takes a little bit of conceptual understanding to realize what we're actually doing. So the first thing we're going to do when we solve an absolute value equation is that we want to get the absolute value bars by themselves, whatever's inside it. So in this particular problem, I have the absolute value of 2x minus 7 minus 5 equals 4. I want to undo this minus 5 so I can get the absolute value bars by itself. So similar to that of solving an equation, I'm going to add 5 to both sides. And so when I do that, I'm left with the absolute value of 2x minus 7 equals 9. Now from here, this is where some conceptual understanding is required. So the absolute value, if we remember, the definition is that it is the distance from a number to 0. Well, if you think about a standard number line, let me sketch one right here. If I'm looking at, let's mark this as 0, and I mark this right here. So let's say this is 3 away from 0. Well, on a number line, there are actually two numbers that are 3 away from 0. I've got 3, and I've got negative 3. So I have two solutions that fit this equation, or have the same distance away from 0. And so looking at this, there are going to be two possible solutions, at which case 2x minus 7 is 9 away from 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this into two equations. So the first equation we have is if we just drop the absolute value bar, so 2x minus 7 equals 9. We're looking at the positive case, if this were to equal positive 9. Then we'd have the other case. So I'm going to put an or here, or 2x minus 7 equals, well, the negative case. It could equal negative 9. That is also 9 away from 0. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to solve both equations. So for this one, I start out, well, I need to undo minus 7. So I add 7 to both sides, plus 7. And so this gives me 2x equals, 9 plus 7. That would be 16. Then I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 2. So I divide, and I get x equals 8. So that is the first possible solution. I could have 8. And now let's find the second possible one. Well, again, I need to undo minus 7. So I add 7 to both sides. So let's see, that's going to give me 2x equals, that would be negative 9 plus 7, which is negative 2. Then I go ahead and divide both sides by 2. So I get x equals negative 1. And so what I have are two possible solutions to this absolute value equation, the positive and the negative case. That's where they came from. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to check and see, do these solutions work? Now, really, I don't need to check this one. If I did my work correctly, it works. There isn't going to be a case where I get an extraneous solution when the problem looks like this. However, we need to get in the habit right now because later on, if you get into more complex absolute value equations, the possibility of an extraneous solution is a real thing. So first of all, I'm going to take this. I'm going to take absolute value of 2x minus 7 equals 9, and I'm going to plug in 8, and I'm going to plug in negative 1. I'm going to solve each of those to make sure that it checks out. So let's start with 8. So I'm going to have 2 times 8 minus 7, don't forget your absolute value bars, equals 9. So let's see, 2 times 8, that's 16, and then minus 7 equals 9. So let's see, 16 minus 7, that's 9. And well, this says the absolute value of 9 equals 9. And yes, that is definitely true. 9 is 9 away from 0. Now let's test the other case. So I'm going to test, does negative 1 work? So let's see, I'm going to have 2 times negative 1 minus 7, and the absolute value of that equals 9. So let's see, that's going to be negative 2 minus 7 equals 9. Well, negative 2 minus 7 is negative 9. So I have the absolute value of negative 9 equals 9. Well, again, that checks out. Negative 9 is 9 away from 0. So I've solved my absolute value equation. First, let's do a review of what happened. We isolate the absolute value, so I added 5 to both sides. Then we split it into our two cases. We look at if it equals the positive number, and we look at it if it equals the negative number, and drop the absolute value bars when you split it. Then I got my two possible solutions. I got x equals 8, x equals negative 1, and then I went back and checked my work, and it checked out. Absolute value of 9 equals 9, absolute value of negative 9 equals 9. So that's how you solve a basic absolute value equation.